So welcome back to Wandering into Wellness. We are here still in Meadows in the Mountains, and now we have with us a lovely guest, Isis. Welcome, Isis.
Thank you.
Isis is dedicated to the art of ritual, so that's what we're going to talk to her about today. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey into looking at ritual, understanding ritual, relationships with ritual, and how that came to be something that's really important in your life?
Yes. Well, I was born in Mesa, Arizona, raised on the island of Guam, Chamorro, and I come from an indigenous community that is in the Pacific. It's a little island in the Pacific Ocean, and really my desire to understand ritual comes from missing that in my culture, and really colonization that's continues to happen in my culture, and losing the ceremonies and the rites and the prayers, not knowing them, and not having any elders to guide me through it. And I always had a calling to understand the really spirit, the life force of creation that moves through all things, and to really connect and understand how to be in right relationship, and to really make of my life an offering. And so my whole life, since I was a kid, I started studying ritual and ceremony anywhere I could, whether it was from reading books or going to the church or sitting with monks or whatever it was, studying as much as I could. And then when I was about 21, I went on a trip to Egypt, and went on a spiritual journey to Egypt. It was like a 2-week journey, and went through all the initiations and the rites and the ceremonies.
Wow. Under what spiritual style, or what, like, was it?
It was
kind of
something, yeah. It was more, at the time I was studying transpersonal psychology and ascended masters. I was starting to connect with other beings on the other side, and my teacher was an expert in ascended masters, and so I followed him, and he led us to Egypt, and started having the most powerful experiences of my life. And since then, I've gone back to Egypt. I go back to Egypt pretty regularly, and I've actually led rituals and ceremonies in Egypt.
Wow.
So that's been a big part of my life journey.
And is there, like, so I mean, we know a little bit in, like, ley lines and that sort of stuff that cross over, like, say, at Stonehenge. Is there a strong, like, connection center? What's the reason for Egypt? Is it their origin, the archetypes they have in terms of their history spiritually, or what was it that makes Egypt a particular place as a center for you? What draws you there?
Definitely the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx. The Great Pyramid, mathematically, there's no other pyramid like it on the planet, and they say that its placement is actually the center compass of all of the sacred sites around the planet.
Wow.
Because there's sacred sites all over the planet. There's a grid, a network, and connecting them are these telluric energy grid lines. Yeah. And the Great Pyramid they consider to be a compass.
Oh, wow.
And it's a sound healing chamber.
And have you been in? Have you engaged in sound healing?
Yeah, I've led ceremonies in there, and we've led many ceremonies in there, actually.
Amazing.
And then also the Sphinx, which originally they believed that it was a lion-headed sculpture, and they recently studied the weathering, and they believe it's older than 30,000 years.
I've read a lot about this. Yeah, this is fascinating.
Yeah,
Egyptologists don't really want us to know about this or deal with it at all. Yeah.
We did oracle rites in between the paws of the Sphinx for December 21st, 2012, and yeah, so ritual and ceremony is definitely my life. That's what I do. Okay,
can you describe oracle rites for a second?
Yeah.
For a while, however long it takes.
Well, a lot of the indigenous communities and also ancient civilizations that I've studied had oracles, and they had different titles. You know, every community or culture has different titles for similar roles in the society. And oracles, particularly some of the more popular ones, are in Delphi in Greece. And people would travel from all over the world to come meet these oracles, particularly in Delphi. I'm using that as an example. And it would be these women or two spirits, sometimes men, that would be in these chambers, and they would inhale the gases from different herbs and medicines, and people would come and ask a question, and then they would give an answer, oftentimes in the form of a riddle. And then they would receive the riddle and interpret the riddle, and oftentimes lead their empires through the riddles. That's an example of Delphi. But so many cultures, oracle rites are actually very common, and it's actually what we're missing in our current culture right now.
Interesting.
Yeah, what do you feel that the role of ritual should be in cultures now? Like, what are we missing, and how can it change stuff for the better?
Well, connection to the spirit, the life force of creation that moves through all things. Everything's alive. Everything has life force. And oftentimes, because I believe of the continued practice of colonization, we forget that we are part of the ecosystem and that we are interdependent and related, and everything that we do sends a rippling effect into the web of life, and then we're affected by the rippling effect of the web of life. And I feel like what ritual does is it not only helps us stop for a minute to connect with ourselves and our own innate intelligence and intuition and innate wisdom too, also helps us connect to the life force of creation, and then in communities as well. Set intention, work with the technology of prayer, because everything we imagine, think, say, do becomes a habit, becomes a behavior, then becomes our destiny. And so ritual helps us to stop, tune in, set an intention, and really work with the line of manifestation, because everything, we're always moving forward. We're always creating and making. And ritual helps us to recognize what we are actually creating and be more clear about what we're creating.
So it's quite mindless, isn't it, at the moment? And the greed path. Do you think the reason maybe that, or why do you think, I suppose, that the current culture has come to not accept spiritual wisdom as a valid reference for a direction, for a compass for what to do in life, for what to
I feel like colonization is why. It's like, the classic thing, even here in Bulgaria, the burning of the witches at the stake. The oracles, like a lot of the spiritual guides and prophets and oracles have been erased from society. Killed, burned, stoned, forgotten. All the forgotten ones, are starting to come back. We're recognizing that not only do we need ritual to connect with ourselves, connect with the community, but part of what we're missing is rites of passage. Like that acknowledgement of these major turning points in our life, these acknowledgements of our community's turning points in life, and then real recognition of we're born for a reason, and we have a purpose to be of service and to make of our life an offering to give.
And it's so interesting that, that what is it? Not the 7-country study, but where they look at the blue zones. The blue zones. So they've done studies where they looked at populations where they have the highest level of centenarians, so the most people living over 100 and living functional, healthy lives. And there's 7 areas in the world, like the Nicoya Peninsula in Costa Rica. There's one of the islands in northern Japan, and one of they look at kind of across those populations what defining characteristics there are that they seem to lead to this. And the main one, the one they come back to all the time, it's not like nutrition, it's not like, well, it's connectedness is a big part of it, but ikigai, that purpose, the sense of living life with a purpose. It's so strange that so many people who are in my daily life anyway, I don't know whether they feel like living life with a purpose or not, but you don't feel it, and you don't. I mean, work is not a passion. The passion is what's done at the weekend. But do you think we can all live life with a passion in the Western world as it stands? Is it a massive contradiction? Is it too much of a contradiction?
I feel like we can.
Yeah.
I feel like when we're doing what we're here to do, we, by nature, attract an abundant lifestyle.
Yeah.
By nature.
Yeah.
And, with this turning point, with this great turning that we're in, where the survival of our species is at stake, that it is necessary to do what we're here to do.
It's real.
It's real. Because then we give up our offerings and our passion and we feel the connection, and then we care, and through the caring we tend, and we make a beautiful world. If we're not doing what we're here to do, we don't tend and we don't care. And then we try to escape or go to Mars or go to another planet.
Yes.
And we're living in this escapism mentality and forget, and we keep forgetting and keep forgetting and keep forgetting. We become the forgotten ones. Where if we're doing what we're here to do, we keep remembering and reinstating ourselves back into the ecosystem and make beauty.
And
one of the things that you see a lot in yoga classes and people that you meet, people that you might get coming into the shop or whatever, people that we're meeting in our lives is that sense of rising anxiety, depression, loneliness, all these things that once upon a time it was kind of something that you might meet one person that had an experience of that in their personal life, and now I feel like it's a chronic issue, and part of that I feel like is that lack of connectedness to ancestry, to feeling that there is this web, that there is this interconnectedness, and just feeling like we're our own individual person alone. And so I feel like what you're talking about with ritual is that people could actually begin to plug in and have that knowledge that they're not alone, that they're part of a bigger thing,
Yes.
that maybe that would be like a fundamental way that would start to settle itself.
Absolutely. Community is everything. We need each other. We're so interdependent and so interrelated. And the program really around being alone, or really greed, or like self-fulfilling, really prophecy around me, greed, is I think the issue. It's the issue, and it's a program. It's
a part
educated.
Of human, we sort of like it's one of the things we have to acknowledge in ourselves, like that abundance, but like in a material sense. There's one really interesting thing somebody told me recently, that they think that the reason that we try to accumulate, material objects, is because we're not ready to leave this earth yet. Because the way they say, like, guys who are like well on in terms of enlightenment and Zen Buddhism, that sort of thing, they sort of almost aren't here. They're sort of like just ready to, like, they're almost just a spirit. And there's like a need to like grab onto things. And it's nice because it sort of allows me to forgive my own need for hats and sunglasses and crap. But it's also kind of a nice acknowledgement of one of the kind of fundamental part of human condition, I suppose. But recognizing it rather than maybe suppressing it might be, a healthier way to.
Well, also too, in a lot of the villages, things were shared.
Yeah.
You accumulated on behalf of the community to support the community's growth and evolution.
Sure, of course, that's a big part.
And I feel like that's a big piece that we've forgotten. I feel like festival culture is a conscious or unconscious desire to experience village life again.
It's really interesting.
We were just saying that this festival specifically, because it's so small and you have to travel so far to get here, and it's also really linked with the community that's here, you really feel like it's just an uprising of its own little community that's just sprung up, and people who've all come to be a part of this community that's here just for these few days. And that's the desire of people that have traveled for miles. Really a long journey to get here and be a part
really
of that.
beautiful.
And it doesn't feel like a festival just of consumption of like, I pay my ticket, I come in, I drink my beer, I dance, and I go home, or whatever. Like, but it's there's sort of a feel of like everybody's making somewhat of a personal investment here, and there's a connection between everybody here as a result, which is rather nice.
And a connection with the forest, with the land that it's on, which is really nice.
Absolutely.
So you're saying this is as a site, the Rhodope Mountains?
Yeah, Rhodopes.
Rhodopes.
Mm-hmm.
They have a really strong kind of is it a history with burning of witches, or a strong kind of tale?
Baba Yaga.
What? I know nothing of this.
Baba Yaga is a Bulgarian witch.
Okay.
And so some of the old stories about the witches are seated here with Baba Yaga.
Wow.
Same thing with the dragons. So a lot of the dragon lore is right here. Wow. That's why it was an idea that I had suggested that we do a dragon.
That's beautiful.
And so Robert built this dragon to honor the dragons here. And I had this idea last year of creating a Baba Yaga hut to honor Baba Yaga, and they built one last year.
Okay.
I feel like it's important to get to know where we are and what the cultural stories and the ceremonies and the rituals and the rites are of the area, because the ancestors are here and they feel everything. And something you said, you alluded to, was, which I agree, is ancestral trauma is a real thing. And the lack of connection to our ancestors, where we come from, the sense of belonging, our origins, I feel like is a part of the challenge that all humans navigate in feeling connected, knowing where they come from, and part of and really the continued colonization syndrome.
Yeah.
Like some believe that the English language is actually a colonizing language in and of itself.
Yeah.
And we're programmed to keep enslaving and colonizing, and we're learning how to make of our life a ceremony where we're sharing in right relationship with the life force of creation that moves through all things, and feel that interconnectedness and that interdependence.
Beautiful.
So I know.
What do you think? So, when we're listening to you talking about it, it sounds so beautiful, and it sounds so obvious, and it sounds like the thing that everybody needs.
Yeah.
But the people listening who've never even thought about this before, maybe, or maybe they have a sense of it, or maybe not. What are the things that they can do to start bringing ritual into their life? What would this look like in their daily life, and how can they make it applicable to them?
Well, the thing is everything is a ritual, right? It's really about the level of presence and attention and an intention that you're putting into it. Even brushing your teeth, you know, or drinking a glass of water. Drinking a glass of water is a very classic one, especially with this dynamic of what we're navigating with water. You know, the Hopis say that it's looking like the third world war, if there's to be one, will be around water. Consciously drinking a glass of water does so much. Like thanking the water, because you're also thanking the water in your body. You know, like we're made up mostly of water. Water's alive. Water receives information. It imprints information, and it's the carrier of the wisdom of the ages, because water's life. We come from water. So a very simple ritual is to consciously acknowledge the water, speak to the water, and drink it fully and not waste it. That's a basic one.
It's lovely. Know. It's so profound. Like I started making matcha tea a few years ago in the morning, and I had a little electric whisk thing, you know, the little foaming things or whatever. It's great, foamed it up, blah, 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 you know, made it with the 30-degree water and put 7-degree water on top, lovely bowl of matcha, very nice. But then I bought a bamboo whisk because I knew that was the way it was supposed to be. And one of the Japanese women who used to work with me kind of instructed me on, you know, the idea that it was a meditation, the idea that it wasn't just pouring a cup of tea and drinking a cup of tea. And so she just talked me through the figure of 8 whisking of a cup of matcha. And it's only 30 seconds or whatever, but it's amazing what it does to your heart rate. Like even like the tiniest bit of shavasana or whatever at the end of your practice, and it's amazing how quickly your body goes, oh, it wants to do that. It really wants to connect to what it's doing. It doesn't want to be distracted from it. It's an easy thing to engage when you choose to. You just have to opt
Absolutely.
in.
Presence, attention, and intention.
Yeah.
In everything.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Then we're like walking around more awake.
Yeah.
Yeah, and because there's so much talk now about habitual actions being negative, and a lot of negativity put on habitual actions and repetitive actions, but those things don't need to be a negative if you just bring that attention to them. So it's not that what seems so nice about what you're saying is that it's not that you're saying go out and change everything. It's like you can live the life that you're living now, but be more mindful in it and bring ritual into that without having to go and change everything.
Yeah, and
those are the things that precipitate change, eh? That's kind of what changes filters out. Sorry, go on.
Well, and just what was I saying? I think I was speaking about attention to what you're doing.
Attention and attention.
When you're really attentive to what you're doing, you take the time to be with what you're doing. Life becomes a meditation.
Yeah.
You know, and oftentimes when we take that time for ourselves, we can hear more, we see more, the world opens up. You know, and then we kind of start to feel into, the more we feel into ourselves, we feel into our purpose, and we feel into how we can be of service. You know. Yeah.
So I want to ask you so many things. I feel like we haven't heard about the witches properly. Can you explain something about dragon lore? What is it? I've only heard tiny shreds of this over years, and I've never really tapped into it. What?
Oh my God, there's so many stories. But one thing I love is, you know, going back to what we talked about at the beginning with the sacred sites and the telluric energy grid lines. The Chinese refer to that as the dragon lines. That all the telluric energy grid lines are dragon lines, and that the water lines are serpent lines. And there's all these stories and mythologies around the serpents and the serpent dragons. You see that all over the world. You know, Quetzalcoatl is a very common one from Maya.
Okay.
The Kumars from Peru. Yeah. And then all the
even
dragons
in the
from
Indian
here.
Mythology, the gods with all the different snakes.
And dragons.
And dragons.
You know, I thoroughly believe that dragons existed and still do.
Yeah.
You know?
And so what do they symbolize for you in your life? When you said you wanted to put a dragon here, when you were connecting to dragon lore here, what is it? What function do they serve exactly? What purpose do they serve?
Well, different like any sort of cultural tradition around different beings, there's many of the kinds that serve different purposes. For this particular land, my thought around it was they carry the wisdom of the earth of this land, and they are the treasure protectors.
Nice.
And so they're sort of like protecting the land also, you know, because we're all coming and bringing everything that where we come from here.
Yeah.
And so they're protecting, taking care of the land, and embodying the wisdom of the land.
Good. Yeah, yeah.
That was my thought around the dragon.
Cool. So it gives some preservation of the local kind of culture and innate wisdom as well. That's
And
really nice.
historically, would people have gone to learn from dragons? Would they have communed with dragons? Would they have prayed to dragons? How is their relationship to dragons? Or were the dragons just this thing that existed and they didn't have a relationship with them physically?
Well, it's a good question because it depends. Like, some stories, and you know, I don't feel like I can technically tell these stories because it's not my culture, but I can refer to parts of them. Some stories believe that we're part dragon, that we're come from the lineage of dragons and serpents. Some stories believe that there are different species and we lived with them and we were in communion, and you know, all of the mystical creatures that we think of, like unicorns and griffins and dragons, that they actually were real beings. And then some stories believe that when you were part of a clan or a village, every clan or village had different animal totems. And oftentimes when you were your mother's clan or your father's clan represented different animals, and the mystical beings like dragons were a collaboration of two animals.
Oh wow! Okay.
You know, so it's different cultures say different things.
That's,
But one thing I really, you know, in the rituals that I do, that I think about in all the prayers that we do, is that every time we send a prayer, because there's a technology to prayer.
I love that term when you use technology of prayer. It's like, it makes it feel very real and practical.
It's very real. It's very practical. I always like to send the prayer into the dragon lines, the telluric energy grid lines, so that they go to all the different sacred site spots, and then send them into the serpent lines.
Okay.
So we're working with the energy frequencies, because, you know, some believe that we're living in different dimensions. I definitely believe that. And that when we take the time to connect with ourselves, connect with each other, connect with the land, connect with the spirit, and drop into ritual, the veil gets really thin, and we can see into other dimensions. So other beings start to show up. And that, you know, dragons are still alive and they're moving, but they're not necessarily in this dimension.
I mean, we know so much about, like, bees see infrared light. You know, there's so many things we're not picking up that we do acknowledge and that we've studied, but we're not willing to necessarily reference when it's a mythical creature. But potentially, actually, quantum physics says the most likely thing is that there's a multiverse, that we're like, every single action and we ever take in our lives has already been repeated infinity times. It's just something we can't quite cope with, and we go, let's shut that down. So in Guam, where you've seen like Western culture kind of pervasively erode the kind of traditional wisdom that's there, is there a re-emergence happening there as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the things that's happening, that my dad is very involved. His name's Clifford Guzman. He's very involved in cultural revivification and you know, remembrance. And a movement that's happening right now with the Chamorro peoples is they're relearning the language, because the continued colonization of the Spanish and the Dutch and the Japanese and the Americans, they realize that the language has changed, and some of the colonizing languaging is now in the Chamorro language.
Oh, wow.
And so they're changing.
How do you get that away?
And so basically they're relearning the Chamorro language. It was just purely Micronesian, pure pre.
Down? Is there enough?
No, it's all past.
It's all about tradition. Wow.
And so it's really about, you know, really something that's very important in a lot of these, in all of our cultures. Everyone has an origin from somewhere. Everyone has belongs somewhere. A lot of us that are mixed belong many places. Is to really sit with our elders. Because they are carrying so much information and wisdom, especially right now with the internet, while everything is sort of mixing, you know, which is a beautiful thing too. It's showing how interrelated and interconnected we are and interdependent. But our elders are the ones that carry the stories that we need. You know.
We're about to chat to Diana. What's her surname? I can't remember. She talks about intuitive plant medicine.
Macaulay.
Thank you. And she was saying how, you know, she's not on the internet. We gave her our little cards, like, we're on YouTube, we're on iTunes. She's like, I'll never find you. I was like, okay, but you're happy to go on a chat, that's great. She was like, yeah, I don't really connect with that. I put myself into a place that's remote enough that doesn't really happen. And I was saying, well, how do you feel about this? Because this feels very modern and whatever, and yet not, I suppose. She was like, well, this kind of is my internet, you know?
Yeah.
It's amazing, isn't it?
That's a beautiful
Is that lovely?
thing.
Yeah.
It's so sweet.
Yeah.
I
It makes
love
no
it.
sense.
Like her way of plugging in.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what it feels like for us doing the podcasts, really. One of the most beautiful things about coming here is it's access to all these people who come from not Ireland, from places that we wouldn't normally have access to, and just to be able to happen upon them or hear their workshop and say, wow, like, that is knowledge that I would love to learn from, and to be able to then sit and learn with that and then share this for other people. And it's like a little mini internet. It's like being able to go around and go, that's the little bit of information that I want, that's another little bit of information that I want.
I love that.
Which, well, you're doing it. You're doing it
you're
here.
part of it.
That's your job.
Yeah, that is my job.
That's great, yeah. So can you tell us something about the people that you have? Because obviously we know we have Diana, we just spoke about. What other people are facilitating here this weekend, or ones that you're interested in?
Well, one I'm really excited about is the Bulgarian choir.
Yes, 5:30.
Really excited. It's a little later, but I'll show you the schedule. We had to. Yeah, the Bulgarian choir, I'm very, very excited about that. Because, I feel like, when we come to these sacred lands, hearing the songs is so important. The songs carry the stories.
Yeah.
The songs carry the medicine of the land. So learning traditional songs, I feel, is important. So I'm very excited about that.
Wow.
And
who's coming to do it? Is it somebody local?
Local women,
Oh,
local
wow.
choir.
Amazing.
I know.
That's going to be so amazing.
I'm really excited about it. The other thing I'm really excited about, I haven't really experienced them before, but it was through the internet, is the Wisdom Roundhouse.
Yeah.
It's a sound healing group,
Cool.
and I don't know what they do, but I just have a good feeling about them.
Okay, right.
And I'm also looking forward to the Cacao Alchemy workshop. I just came from, because I do this at other festivals, and we had these traditional Mayan elders from Guatemala. From this cacao comes from this tree that they've been harvesting for hundreds of years.
Oh, wow.
And they led a 3-hour cacao ceremony in the traditional Mayan way.
Oh, wow.
It's really special.
Where was that?
Lightning in a Bottle.
Oh, okay.
That's the festival I work in. And one of the elders is like 75, and so I'm really looking forward to seeing how the younger generation carries forward these ceremonies.
And what different qualities they bring to it.
And it's an interesting topic because, a lot of the work I do in terms of North America, cultural appropriation is a really big topic.
Okay, yeah.
And learning about what it means, how to preserve and carry forward these particular ceremonies, and also acknowledge where they come from in the right way.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to seeing how he carries it forward.
Yeah, and like, do you think that so where something just feels relevant in us right now, regardless of who it is doing it, do you think there's, if you don't acknowledge necessarily where things are coming from, do you think it's useful for itself, and can you, just because it's happening, is it not then valid? Do you know what I mean?
It's a big question. It's a very, very big question. And I could probably talk about that.
Dogma, otherwise, kind of in a way, doesn't it? And that's sort of the tension with it a little bit, or can do.
Yeah, it can, for sure. And the topic around cultural appropriation is almost like a totally different talk, because that's a big one. No, it's a big one, and it's a very important one right now.
Yeah.
Because we're, especially festival culture, not even just festival culture, in general right now, we're remixed. We're made up of so many different ancestors at this point, and it's rare to find folks that are pure lineage or have been raised in traditions and raised in cultures that are still alive, that carry these ceremonies.
Yeah.
And at this time, the remembrance of the need for ceremony and ritual and intention and attention and prayer, and not having elders to teach us, or the passing of lineages in a certain way, we naturally want to pick it up, and learn about it and create new ways. And so there's this interesting dynamic between lineage ceremonies, lineage ways, lineage rituals, and the new rituals that are coming forward.
Yeah.
And it's a big topic right now.
And it can be a lovely dynamic if it's handled nicely, if it's handled sensitively by everybody involved.
And we're learning how to handle them right.
And
because there's not really anything new. You know, everything's been done before,
Yes.
and we're doing things that have been done before in a new way. And so that's a big topic. It's a really big topic.
So if people are interested in what we've been talking about and interested in what you're saying and interested in learning more about the art of ritual or maybe connecting with you in some kind of a way, where can they do that? Do you have a space on the internet? Do you have regular retreats that you hold or workshops? Or?
Well, I just took down my website because I'm going to redo it.
Okay.
And I've actually only put it up. I have this interesting thing where I oftentimes won't put myself out on the internet because I like this finding people through connection, but I know that time needs to change. So isisindriya.com will come at some point.
Okay.
IsisIndriya, INDRIYA.com. And then my partner Eve and our group, we also have livingvillageculture.com.
Okay, cool.
And that's where we post some of the things that we do.
Okay.
You know, I do a lot of classes, we do retreats, we hold a lot of ceremonies and rituals, we do curation, I do a lot of curation. This is definitely what I do all the time. So for now, livingvillageculture.com sometimes, and soon, isisindriya.com regularly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Otherwise, Facebook.
Yeah. Thank you so much for
Thank
today. That was
you.
such a treat.
Thank
Really
you.
such a treat.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it and listened. And so don't forget to like and subscribe, comment below, etc. And obviously the best ones, we'll be handing out some goodie bags fairly soon. You're going to see some posts of that. And tune in for the next one. Okay, thanks.